Welcome everyone to another Performance Clinic, best practices for utilizing Dynatrace on your mobile apps. It's Andy Grabner, that's me, and today I have my guest Asad Ali from Dynatrace in Boston with me. Hi Asad, how are you?
Hi Andy, I'm doing well.
Thanks for joining me today. I know we are still all in lockdown mode, which means we are broadcasting live from living rooms, kitchens. Which room are you in?
I'm in my office room.
Office room, perfect. I'm here in my kitchen. I'm actually standing here at my bar, close to the fridge, which is, it's almost time for an adult beverage, but probably after this one. So just a quick news for the attendees. For those that are live, please use the Q&A feature to put in any questions you have. I will moderate. Asad, I'll try not to interrupt you with questions, but if I feel a question makes sense at that moment, I will throw it over to you. Otherwise, we'll keep it to the end. We should have enough time for Q&A. If you happen to watch this offline or later on as on demand, you can go to answers.dynatrace.com to post in your questions. You can obviously, you see our names. I'm pretty sure you'll figure out a way how you can find us online, or you can reply to the email that you have received when you registered for the webinar. But now, Asad, I would like to hand it over to you. Mobile applications, utilizing Dynatrace on it. I know you have a lot of stuff to show us from a best practice perspective, also hands-on how to instrument. And I just want to, hand it over to you to show us what people can do with Dynatrace on mobile apps.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andy. Hi, guys. So in the last couple of years, we have been seeing a lot of adoption of our mobile instrumentation of instrumenting your mobile apps using Dynatrace agent. And I want to take this opportunity to talk about how you can auto-instrument your mobile apps, whether it is Android or iOS. Those are the two operating systems that we support. Even it doesn't matter whether it's a native app, whether it is a hybrid app, or even if it's a React Native app, we support all of it. And then I want to talk about a little bit about once you get the data out of the box from Dynatrace, if you want to enrich the data with more stuff, and I'll show you some examples of that, how you can do that with the mobile SDK that we provide. And then there are APIs. As you know, Dynatrace has been built with the API in mind from the day one. So how you can use the Dynatrace APIs with the mobile apps. And then once you get the last part I want to focus on is once you get the data in Dynatrace or the mobile app data, how you can visualize the data, how you can create dashboard, how you can look at the reports in Dynatrace so you can get an understanding of adoption of your mobile apps, whether it's Android or iOS, which version of the mobile app is more popular. I want to go more into the mobile app analytics at the later part of the presentation. So to instrument a mobile app, and this is an example that I'm showing you of an Android app, but same is true for iOS, no difference. In case of Android, as I'm showing you here, this is an example of a native mobile app from Android. And when you go into Dynatrace, when you look at your mobile application, there are wizards available in the Dynatrace UI that allows you to define a snippet of code that you can add to your Gradle script. So this is an example of using Gradle with Android. If you're using Kotlin, you can use Kotlin. For iOS, there are different steps. But basically what you're doing here is you're defining a class path on the dependency, and you're defining Dynatrace tools. And Dynatrace class path and jar files, everything that you need for auto instrumentation is available both on the JCenter and Google. And those are typically there in your Gradle files anyway. So these, you first need to make an entry of this entry here. And then in the build.gradle file, again, I want to highlight one thing here is when you write a mobile app, in case of Android, you can have multiple Gradle files, one at the project level and one at the module level. In this example that I'm suggesting to you is that you make these entries into the project level and not at the module level. So once you have this, once you open your Gradle file, you make this entry. And this is the other part that you need to add. This is where you can tell Dynatrace, once your app is instrumented with the Dynatrace agent, where does it need to send data to? Which endpoint does it need to send data to? So this is the beacon. This is the endpoint that it will send data to, as well as you also need to define which application does this data belong to. Now, in Dynatrace, for example, you can have a web application, you can have mobile application. So just to make sure that data is going to the right application, you provide an application ID. And when I go into the live demo, I'll show you where you can find this data and where you can copy and paste into your Gradle file. So this is the only entry that you need to make in your Gradle file, and then you build your application the way you do it. And that's pretty much it. There's to auto-instrument the mobile app, you really don't have to do anything else at all. And this is true for native and the hybrid app, right? In case of hybrid, your web view will be auto-instrumented by Dynatrace. The native part also will be auto-instrumented by Dynatrace. So that's the beauty of the instrumentation part in Dynatrace, because there's not a code change required. There are corner cases. There are some special cases where you may want to add the data, and I'm going to go into that. But out of the box, this is the bare minimum that you have to do, and the Dynatrace will start capturing all your life cycle events of your mobile apps, all your clicks, all your swipes, all that data will be captured by Dynatrace. Now, other beauty here is that if you have your mobile app instrumented with Dynatrace, and on the back end, let's say you have Nginx or Java or Go, whatever you have on the back end, and back end is also instrumented with Dynatrace, Dynatrace will connect the end-to-end, provide end-to-end visibility to you. So let's say you log in, you enter your login ID and password on your mobile device, you click on the login button. The moment the button is clicked, Dynatrace will capture not only the fact that the login button was clicked, but also it will also capture the web requests that are going by the user action with the web request calls. And I'm going to show you in the live demo. So that's the beauty, where we can see from mobile devices all the way to your backend, to your databases. If you're using mainframe, we'll show you all the way into mainframe. And if you're using a React Native app on the npm.js site, you will find our React Native plugin, and you can download the plugin. And there are a few steps as per the plugin. And this is an example, a screenshot of how the instrumentation wizard is suggesting to you is basically you install the plugin. Typically you run a React Native app, you build it, you init it, and then you can also do React Native install the Dynatrace plugin here. And the second part is, once you do that, you modify your metro.config.js file. So this file is created when you create your React Native app, and you add this snippet of code into that metro.config.js. And the last part is that you define once this plugin is installed, that is React Native plugin is installed, it will automatically create a file called dynatrace.config.js. You can see step number 3. You can download it, and then in this file, you have to define again where your endpoint is, where the React Native app needs to send the data to, what is the application ID, all that information you provide in dynatrace.config.js. So the beauty here is that you keep your code clean. There are a few extra configuration files that is provided to you as part of the React Native plugin, and that's it. So it keeps your code clean and doesn't require any changes on your code side. So this is an example of my dynatrace.config.js file for my React Native app. So in this file is, again, as I said, you'll find it in your directory where your React Native app is installed once the Dynatrace plugin is installed. And this is the part where I define the configuration. So I have a section for Android. I have a section for iOS. So here again, I'm providing the application ID and the endpoint where the Dynatrace agent can send data to. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that Dynatrace, if you install Dynatrace, if you're using Dynatrace SaaS offering, then when you go to the Dynatrace UI, it will show you the endpoint where it needs to send the data to. If you're running Dynatrace as a managed, where you're running the Dynatrace server and the cluster within your own data center, the endpoint will be different, again, very specific to your need. So in case of managed, the data that the mobile app sends to never leaves your cluster. It remains as part of your managed cluster. So mobile SDK. Before I go into that, let me show you where you can find this. So this is, I'm going to give a few seconds. So this is my Dynatrace UI. Here, I have my web application, and on the top is my mobile application. So you can create application in Dynatrace very easily. You can say it's a mobile app, and once you give it a name. And when I click on that particular application, I can see where this is the place where I get to see where my data is coming in, what are my top actions. Just the health of your application shows up here. And if you look at the three dots here, if I go into edit section here, this is the part where I can click on it, and this is where all the different settings are there for this application. And then there's certain parts of it I'm definitely going to go into that today, but this is the part I wanted to show you, which is called the instrumentation wizard. Here you can see we have mobile apps available for all different technologies, for React Native, for Android, iOS, Cordova, even for tvOS. And as an example, if I go into Android, this is the part that you will copy from here and paste it into your Gradle file, right? This is my Groovy Gradle part. If I want Kotlin, I can go into Kotlin. So that is automatically telling you this is the application ID for my Easy Travel demo. For this application, this is my ID, and this is my endpoint. So this is where you can find the snippet of code that you need to put into your Gradle script, and then you will build your application the way you build it on its own. Now, what happens is that when you instrument the mobile app, as I said, we'll capture all your information about what the clicks are happening, where the users are coming from. All that information will get automatically. Now, there are a lot of cases, a lot of customers want this feature where they want to also know who this user is. So if it's an e-commerce site or banking application or any kind of application where the customer has to log in to do some activity, you can use the Dynatrace mobile SDK to capture the username and send it to Dynatrace. So this is where you will go and add a little bit of snippet of code in your mobile app. And here, for example, as you see, this is my native mobile app example. And I'm saying that when somebody tries to log in, and if the login is successful, I'm using the Dynatrace SDK here. Then you say that I'm calling a method called identify user, and I'm giving the username as part of the parameter. So this is the way you're telling the Dynatrace agent to not only send the login click button, but also send the username. And the moment it happens, Dynatrace will automatically will assign the user session to that user. And I'm going to go into examples of that when I show you the data in Dynatrace. So this is an example. This is a very common SDK part that our customers use a lot because they want to identify the user. It could be username, could be login ID, account number, whatever way works for you, for your application, that will help you identify where the user is. And the kind of use case for this is, let's say an application is having an issue and you realize, oh, this particular user is complaining that the mobile app is not functioning, or is it crashing, or it is running slow. So the support team or the DevOps team can quickly identify the username, will search for that user in Dynatrace, and look at his or her activity to see exactly what was going on in their user session. And when the response was slow, Was it because of mobile app? Was it network? Or was it server side? If it's crashing, why it is crashing? They can really hone in to that user session only and then find out what's going on. The other use case is where, yeah.
I just want to, first of all, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I want to just remind people to ask questions. There's a lot of questions that already came in. I think I could answer most of them already. I will throw them out to you, though, at least a couple of those, because I think they just fit here. The first, one of the questions that came in, is the source code required in order to instrument an application, yes or no?
For Android, for iOS, yes. For Android, so a little bit of brief history here is that in the past, we used to also provide a utility that will look at your APK and automatically open up the APK and inject our agents and snippet of our agent throughout your APK. In that case, then the source code was not required. However, there are Google has changed the way some of the Android apps are built. There are certain cases where the text file is too big and opening it up and all causes the text file to become a little bit bigger. There are ways to do it, but right now what we have done, from some of the challenges that we found in instrumenting the APK directly has made us go in this direction where we are recommending that you do as part of the build process. If you have an app, an APK for Android, we can still do it. We can still try to do it without needing the source code. But for iOS, we definitely need it.
Perfect. And then, Asad, the stuff that you have been showing with the source code of your app and also what you need to add, people can, if you go into the Dynatrace UI and you start instrumenting, you follow the workflow, you will get clear instructions on how to instrument the app and how you can download the mobile SDK. So I think this is all A, documented, but B, you're guided through this anyway as you move through the Dynatrace UI, correct?
Yes.
Perfect.
So my intention is that hopefully after this you will have a fair idea how to do instrument your mobile app. Hopefully I'll walk you through enough steps so that you can do it on your own.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I will let you go, and as more questions come in later on, I may interrupt you again, but we'll keep most of it to the end. But thank you.
Okay. So the other use case for using the SDK is that, as I mentioned, we are capturing all your clicks and everything, but you may, on top of our custom action, you may want to define a new kind of a action, your own proprietary action name. So you can use Dynatrace user action .set action name. So on click, in this case, I'm saying I'm doing some calculation, and this is an Android example, but the same is true for iOS, where you can define an action name and give it to whatever name that you want to give here. So this is another example where we're capturing a action name. You want to give your own name on top of this, you can do that. You can also create an action and a child action within that. So you can have, in Dynatrace UI, when we look at the data, you'll see the parent action and sub-child action underneath. Other use case for this is, let's say it's an e-commerce site or banking or the mobile app or a travel booking site, right? So let's say I book a travel and I said I want to go from Boston to San Francisco, for example, and I book a travel and hotel and everything, and I spend, let's say, $2,000 on the whole trip. If you want to capture the amount of money that person has spent, you can also send values like user action.report value. You can send this numeric data to Dynatrace so that then you can use that data to build charts and metrics in Dynatrace to see how much sale I have done, how much, what are the top items that are selling on my site on the mobile app. You can do that kind of analysis by sending a report value. So this is another example of using SDK. This is, again, enriching your data on top of what we do automatically for you. And the last use case for SDK is that Dynatrace, if problems are happening in your mobile app and if the app is crashing, will automatically capture your crash reports automatically in Dynatrace. And on top of that, if you want to capture more report error and you want to report more specific data to Dynatrace, you can use the Dynatrace.report error SDK option to send more specific data, custom reporting to Dynatrace, again to enrich your data set in the mobile app. So this is another use case for using the mobile SDK in Dynatrace. Now, what happens is that, as you know, when you build a mobile app, once you have the app ready for iOS as well as for Android, when the mobile app, in case it crashes, you will get a crash report automatically from Dynatrace. Now, what happens is that because you don't want the crash report to be the crash report data to be easily readable, you obfuscate the data. You also use ProGuard and other things to obfuscate the crash report. So when you look at the data in Dynatrace, just like that, you'll see obfuscated crash report. You won't get exactly which method failed, where the error happened. You won't get the whole stack trace. So in Dynatrace, you can upload your mapping file or symbol file for iOS, for Android. You can upload it directly to Dynatrace cluster so that when the crash report comes to Dynatrace, it's human readable in the form. And this is the part where you can do it as using the Dynatrace UI, or you can use our Dynatrace API to upload it as part of your build process. So let's say you have a pipeline, you build your mobile app, and it goes to different stages. As you are building the DSIM files for iOS, or you have obfuscation files for Android, you can also say upload these files to Dynatrace as part of an API call. So it becomes part of your build process, is all automated, and you don't have to do anything at all manually to do it. So use the Dynatrace API to upload this file, so when the crash happens in your mobile app, it becomes a little more human readable. So this is an example where you can see here, this is crash in this particular file on Android, but this is all obfuscated. So to unpack it, I need a mappings file from Android. I can pick it up, upload it using API or Dynatrace UI, and I'm done. This then becomes human readable. I know exactly which package, which method, all that information becomes easily understandable for me. Any questions so far, Andy?
So there's a couple of questions that came in on licensing, how this is licensed. That would be one question to answer.
Yeah. So in Dynatrace, we license mobile apps on a real user monitoring basis. So if you're running a mobile app, you're running any web application, we have pricing for RUM. So it's based upon number of user sessions that you have per year. So let's say you say I have 10 billion user sessions that happens in a year. You buy licenses for that much amount, and it's like a debit card. Once the more you upload that license, as the user sessions are consumed, will decrement it over time throughout the year. So that's how the licensing works for a mobile app. The licensing for mobile app is very similar to exactly the same as what we do for the web monitoring also.
Do you know, for web monitoring, from a licensing perspective, as far as I know, and I might be wrong, but we don't license bouncing users that just have one single user action. So basically they come to the page and then go off. Is this the same for mobile user sessions, where we only license for users that actually do something other than just opening up maybe the app?
Maybe. Most probably, yes. Now, also, and this, at least my experience so far has been that when somebody is really opening a mobile app, the kind of the user tendency of usage is a bit different. When I'm launching an app, I tend to at least do 2-3 actions before I give up. Unlike a web app where I go in there and then the person moves away from that. So, but I believe the pricing is same, but I need to kind of double check on that.
Cool. And one more quick question before I let you go on. Xamarin was asked if we also support instrument and Xamarin apps. Yes,
we do. So if you're using Xamarin, you're writing in .NET, it compiles into. So what happens is that the last time I worked on a Xamarin app, the customer was building the app using .NET, and that will spit out data in it will generate Android and iOS app. And you can then instrument the Android and the iOS section of that once it is spits out into Android and iOS section. So yes, we do support Xamarin also. So let me quickly move away from this and just go into again about steps to quickly to create a mobile app. So in Dynatrace, once you have your own tenant, either free trial tenant or your own tenant, you can come into applications and you can say monitoring settings, or you can say create mobile app. So if I create a mobile app, I give it a name, let's say test, and Dynatrace will create the mobile app for me. Here, if I go into instrumentation wizard here, and if let's say I'm choosing Android, this is what, as I mentioned early on, this is what you'll copy, and this is your application ID. This is the end point where the data needs to go. You'll copy and paste it there into your Gradle script, and you're done. Just build your application, and then it will start working for you. Same thing for in iOS. You have to go into info.plist and add these entries. And for the React Native app, I mentioned to you, you can download the Dynatrace config.js file, add these entries, and you're done. So this is as simple as this: create an app and go to the instrumentation wizard, and you get the data in Dynatrace. Now, once you have the app running, so I have my data coming to Easy Travel demo. Here, all my mobile app data is coming into this section. And here, what I get to see here is that where my users are coming from, with geographic location, because we capture their location based upon the IP address. I also get to see what are my top user actions are. I can go and analyze more. I'm going to go into that. Also, a quick view over here where my app dex rating, basically the end user performance is we do app dex ratings on that. Application index, basically 9.96 is very good, right? How many user actions are coming in? So every click is a user action in Dynatrace, and I can say how many user action per minute is coming into my environment, whether there are any crashes. All that quick overview I get to see here, and also get to see which are my top services that are being called. So in my case, I'm running a backend system that is also instrumented with Dynatrace, and I get to see that. I can also look at the data of analyzed user sessions. This is where I get to see all my users and their sessions. So if I open the mobile app, click through different clicks, keep doing it, and I close the app, the whole thing is considered one user session. And we license based upon user sessions. And in this example, I have used the Dynatrace Mobile SDK to capture the username. So you can see that I'm getting users, and if I look at this particular user, the person's name is already available here. I can see all the user sessions by this user at different times. If I pick one user session, for example, this one, I get to see exactly what kind of devices they are using, what version of the application, their IP address, their location, right? Whether they're using, what kind of screen level they're using, all that information I get automatically out of the box. For this, I don't have to touch my code. This is happening automatically by Dynatrace automatic instrumentation. And here at the bottom, I get to see all the user actions. So when my app started, then I capture the username, and then the search journey activity. This is a life cycle event that is happening in the mobile device. I can capture and automatically capture them. And then somebody clicked on search journey. I think they look. This is a travel booking site. So somebody did that user account. They logged in, and I get to see exactly how they clicked on New York City. They searched on Amsterdam. They kept on doing that. And here is when they really booked the journey. So I get to see all the clicks that they're doing on this site. Not only that, I can also see the time it's taking. The login took 1 second. If I expand this, I get to see that and say perform waterfall analysis. This is where Dynatrace will show you what are the backend calls this particular click is making. So this single click from this single user at that time, I get to see the CPU on the device. I get to see memory information where they're using Wi-Fi. This is important because if they're sitting in Starbucks, for example, and the Wi-Fi is slow, your end user performance is going to be slow, but it has nothing to do with your backend, nothing to do with your app. This kind of information will help you understand what the root cause is. I can also see that the calls were made to Dynatrace side, and as well to +1.google.com is making third-party calls. It's also making calls to Dynatrace on the Facebook side, right? Also, so I get to see all those calls that are coming in to the backend. And I'm also capturing the event. This is I'm using a custom action saying report event saying login is successful. So I get to see all the events. These are generated by when you use the custom SDK in Dynatrace. So this is how we can attach, for this particular user, we can attach a front end to the back end and all the response time automatically for you. So this is the beauty of the whole thing. So let me see. So if I go into search a journey and I look at this waterfall view, this will again show me what are the backend calls that are going in. And here I can see it's making a network request call to find journey in my backend, right? I can say view pure path. Now I have moved I was looking at my user action, which is on the mobile side, and then I'm looking at the code on the backend. It is making call to Tomcat. I get to say where the incoming calls are coming in. This one ran pretty fast, but it was taking a long time, and other stuff I can immediately figure out where the problem is happening in my environment. Now, so this is how you instrument and you get to view all the data. Now, there are things that you can do in Dynatrace to make the data even more powerful. So if I go into user sessions, Dynatrace provides user session query. This is like a query language, like a SQL query language, where you can run queries and look at the data run queries like this. If you look at it, very similar to SQL syntax, we have tables, user sessions, user actions. I can group them the data. I can put where clause. All of these things I can do in Dynatrace. And once I run this user query, I can then get the data automatically. For example, let me show you this dashboard that I built using this user query. So I can also create funnels. So I can say, show me how many people came to started my app, how many people logged in, how many people search for journeys, and how many people really book the journey for me. And this is an example of using a Dynatrace USQL to build a funnel. So 26 people opened the app, 24 out of them did search a journey, 24 did login, and only 18 of them did the booking of journey. Understand one thing here is that this is for us, for all those users that did this activity in one session. So we know what a session is, and if in a session the customer did all these things, then this data is showing it that way. So we're not picking up open easy travel on by one user and booking by another user. Because we are aware of the session, we know all the activity of the session, we can do this kind of query easily in Dynatrace. And if I show you, this is a funnel. This is how query looks like. We have a clause called funnel, and I'm saying data funnel where loading of the mobile app, then perform search, perform login, and boom, I get this. And I can attach this results to a dashboard. This becomes a business dashboard where your business users can see what's my adoption rate, what's my top activity that is going on. You can run all those kind of SQL statement in Dynatrace to get this kind of data. Other thing that I want to talk about is that if I go back here in my application and look at the application again. So what we are doing is that we are capturing all your actions, right? Search journey, book journey, touch and search, so on. And here, this is my time. I can say, show me by all. This is my multi-dimensional view. I can look at the data by devices, OS family. So I can say, show me data for Android, and I get that time. So what my response time is, action duration. And here, I get to see my performance over time. Now, at the bottom here are all my user actions. The top 100 user actions, we are showing it to you here. Showing you what the duration is, if there are any errors, what the app text thinks are, and so on. Now, what happens in our topics, typically there are certain part of your user action that may be valuable to you. Like in my case, booking journey is very important because that's when my app makes money. So there are key actions that I care about, like logins, because somebody is not able to log in, they'll not be able to book the journey. So this user action is important to me. Book journey is important to me. I also want to say maybe search journey is important to me. For example, the action like touch on user account, not really, right? So Dynatrace, I can pick user actions that I care about and mark them as key user actions. So in my example, I define these as key user actions. And to really do that, you can click on touch and search. Let's look into this user action. And when I go into that, I can mark it as a key user action. So by defining an action as a key user action, Dynatrace will allow you to have data for longer, the whole metrics data for that user action for a longer amount of time. We, of course, are capturing all your user action, their timing and everything. By marking them, you can plot them, visualize it better. In the dashboard, we retain the data for it for a longer period of time, so you have more historical data for those user actions. A lot of time what also happens is there may be some actions that are important actions for you, but they may not happen a lot in your environment. So in that case, what will happen is those user actions may not show up in the top 100. For you, that's important. In those cases also, click on the user action, mark it as a key user action. And it's as simple as that. And once you do that, you can create something like this kind of dashboard, right? I can look at, here I'm just saying, again, using the query language to saying that show me the response time, the number of actions count that is happening by iOS and by Android for my key user actions only, because these are important to me. I can also see maybe by app dex. So what is the app dex is? Is the response unsatisfied, tolerating, or frustrated? Show me by that. So I can do this for my key user actions. I can also use them to look at the dashboard like this in Dynatrace. In my journey funnel, I can also see that this is my funnel, but here are my show me my action duration. And Dynatrace will automatically show you the top within the key user actions. I'm saying show me the response of those key user action because those are valuable to me. So I can plot all these things in Dynatrace very easily by using user query language, as well as for key user action. If I mark some of the actions as key user actions, I can easily do that. And then here I'm marking, again, using USQL to say, show me the average duration for app start, for login, for search, and for booking, right? So if I go into this, for example, you can see what my USQL looks like. So the USQL funnel, all those things are very valuable for you to now analyze the data in Dynatrace. Other thing that you can do also is, a lot of time what happens is that you may have different names for similar kind of user actions. So in my case, for example, going back to my mobile app, if I go and say edit it, and here are my naming rules section on my left-hand side. This is another good practices that I do with a lot of customers where they may have different names for search, for example. They could be touch on search, it could be search activity, it could be something else. And they said, well, I'm getting different names for the similar kind of actions. I want to group all of them into one. I can use the Dynatrace action naming rule to group to give a more proper name to my user actions. Or some of the user actions may look a little bit cryptic, may not be understandable for you. You can, in Dynatrace, you can say, I want to give a more meaningful name to them. So I'm saying that if my user action name is search, I can say if any user action contains search in it, give it a user action name called search. So if you can see, when I say touch on search, the new name will be called search. I can use different clauses here. I can say begins with, I can use regular expression that will allow me to group and give proper name to varied or different user actions. So again, a good practice in case you're seeing user action name that doesn't fit what you expect, you can use the user action naming rule to modify it. Another last thing I want to talk about again here is that in Dynatrace, when I look at my mobile app, I can also see that it is making calls to let me analyze performance here. And I can also see all these calls that are going in. I also get to see which are so if I go in here, requests over time, my mobile app could be making calls to Google, maybe other third-party calls that you may have. So Dynatrace will automatically categorize them by whether it's third-party or is it for first-party. But in my case, what happened is I'm making calls to my EC2 instance where my backend is running. And what happened is that Dynatrace it marked it as a third-party, even though it is making really calls to my backend because of my EC2 internal IP address and all those kind of things. So what I did is I said that any provider that has IP 172.23.112, anything that has that kind of name, give it a provider name to dynatrace.org and then define it as a first party. So I can define this so that I get better view about some report like this, for example. I can do, like this. So I can create a report to say, this is the same screenshot. Here I'm looking at the duration. I just want to know whether it's going to third party or first party. Sometimes because of the endpoint being different, Dynatrace may categorize it as a third party. But no, this is going to my own internal system. You can override them and say, no, this is a first party. Here it's showing a third party, but you say, nope, anything that is coming to 10.0.0.78 is a first party, and you can override the define that in Dynatrace, and it will mark it as first party. You can also clean up the URLs using the URL cleaning rules to make it a lot more easier for you to understand what those URLs are. And once you have those categorizations done, you can immediately see what are your top providers. So Amazon call to Facebook to Google, and how much call is going to my Dynatrace.org. So I can do all this mobile analytics very easily in Dynatrace by using key user actions, USQL, defining my third party, first party, all those things I can do it, and defining more custom naming rules. And once I do that, I can visualize the data well. The data is available for both the business users as well as for the developers also. You can run USQL command to see, show me the errors that are happening by operating system, by application version, so you know which is this crash that is happening. Is it happening only in Android? If it's Android only, which version of the app? Is it across all Android? Or is it one particular flavor of Android? You can do all those analysis easily in Dynatrace. So I know I went pretty fast in this, but I just wanted to give a flavor to you, not only about the front end, the ease, how you can instrument it, but also once you get the data on the back end, how you can analyze the data and filter the data so that you can quickly look at the columns and look at the data easily in Dynatrace. And I think this is my last slide. Yeah.
Very cool. Hey, Asad, there's a lot of questions that I want to go through. Exactly. Just a reminder before we go into Q&A, there's a lot of additional resources out there in case you want to know more about Dynatrace. If you haven't yet used Dynatrace, you can just sign up for the trial. The recording of this performance clinic will be made available on Dynatrace University as well as on YouTube. Asad, we will also make the slides available on Dynatrace University for our Dynatrace users, if that's okay with you. I think it's great stuff that you've put in there. And there will be obviously more performance clinics coming, especially around mobile, because there's a lot of things that are, we constantly add. Now, Asad, I would like to ask a couple of questions. There's like two clusters of questions that I see right now. One is in terms of troubleshooting. So what do I do in case my mobile app, I don't see data, right? I've instrumented the app, everything looks good, but no data comes to Dynatrace. What are the best ways to troubleshoot? And I think one answer to this is, and I've had some people asking me, if they're using Dynatrace managed, you will obviously need an active gate with a public IP address so that it can consume and receive the beacon. But maybe some other troubleshooting tips. What happens if the mobile app cannot send anything?
Yeah, so for example, that's a good point. So in my environment, if you see, again, this is my Gradle example for Android, but you can do it for iOS also. I also do this part, agent logging equal to true. And this is debug at the debug level. So once I have this, I'm running my mobile app in my environment. You can see all the logs that are coming out, right? So I can see this. You can see DT Ajax Communication Manager. These are the debug logs that are coming out. This helps me a lot. It helps me understand whether my, in one case, for example, a couple of months back, I was working with a customer and there was no mobile data. Then realized that when I looked at the log, realized that the UEM, which is run, it was not active. So this kind of information allows me to understand what's going on. Also, in case you end up opening a support case, providing this log, this is nothing else but ADB logcat that I'm displaying on my screen. This allows our support team also to understand what's going on. What the logging information allows you to understand what's going on. One thing I will definitely verify whether the application ID is correct or not. I will also verify whether, as you said, Andy, that your endpoint is right, the beacon URL is right. And also, the other thing that you can do is both for Android and for iOS, you can also attach the mobile app to the browser in case of iOS, you can attach it to Safari, and then you can look at the Safari developer tool to see what kind of beacon signals are going out. Is the beacon signal even going out or not? And you can look at the network calls from Safari to see whether the Dynatrace agent is even sending the beacon out or not. If it's not, then you know no data will show up there. If it is sending it and it's not showing up there, then that is another different use case, and then some other kind of steps are required to debug the issue. But you can enable debugging like this, or as well as attach it to the browser.
Perfect. Cool. Then we got another set of questions around USQL. Questions on are we able to, let's say, query, show me the users that have HTTP 400s or 500s in their user actions. So it's basically around.
Yeah, so you can do those kind of. So you can do. So the other thing about user SQL is that if you look at it, it is. So if I just take this out, empty it out. So you can do those kind of queries, absolutely. If I go and say select, and then I say count of, let's say, user type from user session. Right? Now, I can do, it comes automatically with total error count. So you can do queries like these. Yep. And then you can see it automatically brings up different tooltips for me, right? So if I say group by user type, and if I type user type, it will automatically bring this thing to me, right? So you can use, so what you're looking for, yes, you can do that with a USQL and find out errors by user actions.
I think the question was the errors. The errors, I think, are the way we categorize whether a user action failed. I think that this one was also particularly on whether we can do it on individual HTTP errors, but basically you would categorize a certain HTTP error to mark the user session as failed, and then you have it through the error count.
Yeah, true.
And obviously the other way you...
One more. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, other thing that I want to also highlight here is that when we are now, what we are doing is when you look at a user session, we categorize the user session also as satisfied, tolerating, or frustrating based upon individual user action performance. So you're right. If there were a lot of errors that were happening on the user action, like 400, 500s, not only the user action will be categorized as frustrating, but the whole user session is categorized as frustrating at the same time.
Yeah, I think the user, though, and I think it's Rod, maybe we can follow up. He's specifically asking, can we get those user sessions that had a particular HTTP status code, right? There, maybe he's interested in a 403 and a 402 and a 501, and whether it's possible to say, show me those users that had a particular HTTP status code on any of the user actions. Maybe this is something you would do on the backend even, and start from there and then drill up. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that's exactly what I'm thinking is that I will analyze because 403s and 404s are happening on your backend side. I would start looking at the data on the backend side. And the beauty is that because the backend is connected to the front end, that means the backend results are connected to the user actions, I can traverse back in Dynatrace to say, given this error, show me only those users that got affected by this error. So absolutely I can do that. I may not use a user session query for that, but I can use other backend mechanism to do that.
Yeah. Rod, I know you may have additional questions on that. You maybe want to follow up later on. Also, everyone, if you have questions on the product, in the top right, there's always a chat window where you can actually chat with our Dynatrace One team. So if you have particular questions on how to get certain things accomplished, you can just chat with our Dynatrace One team. We got 5 more minutes, and I have a couple more questions. The first one is, can you show a crash? Can you show how it looks like in Dynatrace when an application crashes, like the crash report?
Let me see. Let me go to my... I'm going to a different tenant to pick up the data from there.
And while you're loading that, I'll just throw another question at you. Conversion goals. Are conversion goals something we already have or will introduce on mobile, just as we have it on web RAM?
Yeah, so here is... yes, we do. We do that for mobile also. So, yes.
I know it's coming. I'm not sure if it's there already. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
I think the question came from somebody that has experience with Dynatrace. Chat has been asking. I think it's even it's not there yet, and I know this is something that they're coming up. So folks that are not aware of what we do there, you can mark a particular user action as a conversion goal. So you can then say how many users made it, let's say, to the checkout option. How many users clicked a particular link. And then these users are then marked as being converted. It also allows you, obviously, to build conversion funnels. You can also chart these metrics. And we have had this from the beginning for our web monitoring. And we are also going to introduce this for mobile.
So this is an example of crashes in Dynatrace. So these are the exception again. Understand that like this is an exception that happened. This is a iOS exception. This is a Android exception. And again, we are able to see these kind of data because we have uploaded the symbol files and the mapping files so that we can look at it. And this is the stack trace.
Mm-hmm. And it's also cool that we actually do crash clustering. That means we actually show you, does this crash primarily happen on a particular platform or on a particular version of the app, on a particular version of the operating system. So you immediately get to see that, hey, this only happens on an unsupported version, for instance, or it only happens with this particular version of the app. So that's also great. Yeah.
Yep. And I can know exactly some of the device information. I can see, show me the user that got affected. So I can definitely do all these things in Dynatrace easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Hey, Asad.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish your thoughts.
No, I just want to say that, again, in this case, I was able to get the data because this was not obfuscated. In your case, it was obfuscated. Just upload the symbol file or the mapping file and you're done.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Asad, we are at the top of the hour. I want to say thank you so much. It was very cool to see these things live, also getting a lot of best practices on how to instrument the troubleshooting, the USQL, building these dashboards. There were a lot of people and a lot of questions, and I don't think we got through all of them. So folks, if you have more questions, remember you can always use the built-in Dynatrace chat feature to chat with our Dynatrace experts. You can obviously always reach out to us. You know our names. You can go to answers.dynatrace.com to access the whole Dynatrace community. And Asad, I would love to have you back in a couple of months because I'm pretty sure there's more stuff we can show. And yeah, thank you so much and all the best to the US with the lockdown and stay healthy.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.